Hello my lovely nestlings and welcome to today's video where I'm going to make it very difficult for myself because I am going to show you the palettes I would keep if I could only keep one palette per brand. And if you're new, welcome. My name is Nikki. I'm from the Netherlands, hence the accent. I'm also slightly orcish, relatively vintage. I love spooky stuff, makeup and being creative. Let me explain some things. The slightly orcish means I'm green. I'm a light to light medium warm-ish olive. And the relatively vintage means I'm 47. I also have ADHD and I'm autistic. So we have a poofy sweater. Anyway. Yes, only one palette per brand, and the criteria was I had to have 3 or more palettes from the brand, otherwise the video would be 4 hours long because I love me my eyeshadow palettes. Yes, let me first tell you though what I have on my eyes, and that is the Muse palette from Cosmic Brushes. I just got her in today, I'm filming with it now, and I was like, I feel pretty. Let me do another video. As I said, I can only keep one palette per brand. So what I kind of try to do, if they say to me tomorrow, you can only keep one palette of these brands, I want to kind of have still a well-rounded collection, if that makes any sense at all. So that is kind of how I looked. So yes, I have some palettes that I'm like, I don't want to get rid of them. They have to stay from this brand. And I kind of formed the rest around it. I also went alphabetically. Why? Because I can. So let me get the first batch. So the first brand I'm going to start with is Anastasia Beverly Hills, and I have 3 palettes from the brand, and the palette that I pulled is the Nouveau palette. The Nouveau in this is, with the rest that I have pulled, very unique color story. That was the word I was looking for. So the shades are a little bit more muted, the greens are a little bit more muted. It gives me a lot of variety. The quality is very nice though. I've actually done, I think, a 2 or maybe 3 look video with this palette. So if you want to see it in action, if you want to see any of the palettes in action, search my channel because I do have videos with them all. But yeah, I pulled the Nouveau. And she's very pretty. She is very much. Okay, the next brand that I pulled is Ace Beauté. From Ace Beauté I pulled the Palettopoly palette because this gives me a lot of options. It gives me a lot of options. It gives me some pinks. I don't use pinks a lot, but I do like to have them in my collection. Same with blues. It gives me a neutral row. It gives me the nice kind of funky greens a little bit, purple row. There's a lot that I can do with this palette, and I really love the quality. With everything else that I'm pulling, this really made sense. So, and is it my favorite palette from Ace Beauté right now? It could very well be, actually, because I'm really vibing with the color story as well. The next brand I'm going to mention is By Beauty Bay. And I have a bunch of palettes from By Beauty Bay, but honestly, I pulled 2 initially, and this is the one that just kept staying. I don't think it will be a surprise for most people, but it's the Wilderness palette. And this palette is actually the reason that I did not pull the Subculture from ABH. Now it's not the same, but it's very similar. So the vibe that the Subculture has, this one gives me as well, a little. It's not the same. The Subculture is darker, but still this gives me the variety that I want and kind of the color story and feel that I want. Now the reason that I picked this one and not the Book of Magic is because of the red row. I want to have some red option. Not that I use it a lot, but I still want to have it again. I'm kind of going for the well-rounded collection, right? And I'm so sad that they did not make this one permanent. It's just such a stunning palette. The quality of these special palettes I actually like better than the regular quality that they have. So yeah, the Wilderness palette. Next brand I'm going to go to is Catrice. And I have quite a few palettes from Catrice. I actually recently filmed ranking all my Catrice palettes. And the reason that I pulled this palette, it's color story. Out of all the palettes that I have from Catrice, and then with everything that I pulled for today's video, this was the most unique one, and it is the Vintage Soul palette. This is the color story, and the color story is unique in my collection, but especially with everything that I pulled, I was like, yeah, I really want this. I kind of have some grays, I have some cool tone, but also a little bit more of the rosier cool tones. This is just, yeah, out of all the palettes that I pulled, I think this one stands out the most just because it's such a unique color story in my collection at least. I understand that this is not sold in the USA. I don't know why. If I can find it, I will link it. Then we're going to go to ColourPop. And from ColourPop, this one was the one I pulled. I love the palettes that I have from ColourPop. I definitely have my favorites. And this is not a palette that this is actually not my most used palette from ColourPop, but it is the one that needs to stay. It is the Hocus Pocus 2 palette. I would be so extremely sad if I did not have this in my collection. So yeah, that's why this makes me happy. The background with the green, the color story that's in here, the theming, it just makes me so happy. So that is why I pulled this one over the first one because of the green background, and I have more variety than in the first one. I just really love this palette. I have my oranges, I have my greens, I have purple, and then especially, yeah, this orange shimmer, stunning. Stunning. Yes. Okay. Next I'm going to go to Essence. And from Essence I have 3 palettes currently. And I just pulled my favorite out of those 3. And that is right now. It's from the 3 that I have. It's the Welcome to Miami palette. This was actually the first new palette that I tried from them. And I just was so blown away by the quality. I did not expect this quality from Essence in color for eyeshadows. I know that they can do neutrals, but color for eyeshadows are not the most easy to fabricate. And then that Essence can do this. I can get these true to pan. It's a buildable formula, so it's not instant pigment. So if you are a little bit afraid of color, I think that this will be a very nice palette to start with. The shimmers are more your old school traditional shimmers. I do feel that they perform better with a shimmer primer underneath or with your brush sprayed. You can also use your finger if you want to, or sponge tip applicator. But this just really, I kind of was speechless. First off, this is the most colorful palette that Essence has done, at least here when they launched this. And then with the quality that they came out with, I was very impressed. Honestly, I still have the Marrakesh one in my wish list on Boozy Shop. I can definitely see myself grabbing that one as well. Okay. Then we're going to go to Unique Beauty. And from Unique Beauty, I also have a bunch of palettes. And the palette that I pulled, it's a palette that with everything else that I pulled, it just fits. And it is the Bubble Time palette. It's a small palette, it's a 6-pan palette, and here she is. So yes, it's a green palette, but it's a little bit more of a, I want to say, kind of a grayer, muted greens that are in here. And I do have a bunch of greens in all the palettes that I put together, but still. And then this shade Exfoliate, which is actually a topper shade, but it's so yummy. It's so yummy. So yeah, that is why I pulled this. The quality is so nice. Yeah, that's the only thing I can say. I love her quality so much. Then the next palette, the next brand is Fantasy Cosmetica. And as I'm filming this, the Rogue palette is on its way, but I don't know when it will get here. Otherwise, I think I would have pulled that palette, but I don't have it yet. So the palette that I actually pulled from all the palettes that I have right now from Fantasy Cosmetica is the Druid palette. It was the first palette that she came out with. It's the palette that I fell in love with. I did buy this one myself. The rest of the brand's palettes were sent to me in PR, but this is just such a unique color story. Same with actually with the Rogue palette. But I do have to be honest, if I had the Rogue palette here in right now, I probably would have pulled that one. That color story, so yummy. The next palette that I'm going to mention is Glam Shop, or the next brand I'm going to mention is Glam Shop. And from Glam Shop, I actually only pull one, and that's the Zielone palette, which means green in, I think, or is it nature? I don't know. Here she is. So yummy. So yummy. Yeah. This is a brown, but it's easy enough to do a one-colored crease if you want to. So actually this palette gives quite a bit of variety. I love the green mattes that are in here. I love this shade a lot. And then the shimmers are so stunning. This shade, which is called Bush, I believe. It's such a stunning topper. Such a pretty inner corner shade. You can use it as a highlighter as well. It's just more people need to talk about that palette because it's very, very, very stunning. Okay, next brand I'm going to mention is Kaleidos. And I have a bunch of palettes from Kaleidos, but honestly, the palette that I pulled, it could only be that one. And it is the Club Nebula. With there was a collaboration with Angelica Nyqvist and Kaleidos. And this is just, it gives a lot of options, a lot of very, very cool shades. The quality is so, so nice. This palette isn't available anymore, but I just had to pick this palette. There was, yeah, that's it. Usually I don't pick collaboration palettes in videos like this, but I just had to pick. It's the only one that I can keep, you know, from Kaleidos. So obviously it has to be this one, obviously. I will link Angelica's channel down below as well. Next brand is going to be Lethal Cosmetics. And for Lethal Cosmetics, the reason that I picked this palette, which is also a collaboration palette, so maybe you already know kind of which one it is. The quality of this is so, so nice. This is, I feel, a newer formulation. The matte shadows are a little bit more buildable than very blendable. They're still blendable, but they just pack a little bit more of a punch. And yeah, it's the Teresa is a Lethal palette. It's I first off love actually this color story personally more than her first collab, but the quality of this one makes me very, very excited for newer palettes that they are going to release, because I prefer a formula that's buildable. I still want blendability, but I also want buildability. And these shadows, even though they kind of look a little bit more muted, they are so rich in pigment and they are so saturated that they're just stunning. This silver shade, I'm not a big fan of silvers, but this silver has kind of a green in it as well. So that's the reason that and Teresa is just amazing. She's our garbage queen. I will link her channel down below as well. Well, the next brand I'm going to go to is Makeup Revolution, and I just grouped everything together under Makeup Revolution, so basically all the brands. There was one palette that I needed, and I think that if I show it to you, you will definitely understand. Fortunately for me, the quality is also very, very nice, and it is from their collaboration with Shrek. It's the Puss in Boots palette. How can I not pick this? Honestly, how can I not pick this? I thought about my green fluffy palette, but still, if I did not pick this palette, I think my cat would kind of kill me in my sleep. I have a red cat. His name is Floki, and he looks at me like this. So obviously I needed to pick this palette, you know, because I can only keep one. So here's the color story, which is actually very, very cute. And I've played with this, and the quality is very, very nice. These shadows in the palette, they kind of look a little bit, yeah, they're okay, but they pack such a punch on the eye. So basically here you have a quad of mattes, here you have a quad of shimmers. The shimmers are also nice. You kind of need to build them up a little bit, but they're still very, very nice. And the look that I did, no one guessed that it was Makeup Revolution. But yeah, honestly, how can I not pick this palette? Yeah, you know, sometimes it's very, very easy. The next brand I'm going to mention is Natasha Denona, and from Natasha Denona I initially pulled another palette, but then looking at all the shadows and all the palettes that I had pulled, I was like, I am missing cool tone neutrals there. So I picked the Glam palette. Here she is. I could have also picked, you know, if I could have picked two palettes from ColourPop, I would have picked the Stone Cold Fox as well, and then I would not need this one, but I couldn't because that was the rule. And yeah, so I pulled this one. The Glam. I don't use her often, but I do love to have this option in my collection. You know, and then kind of, I don't know, spruce it up with some of the colorful palettes that I have, you know, kind of a pop on the inner corner, or kind of like a funky lower lash line, you know, something like that. So yeah, the Glam palette. Then we're going to go to Nomad Cosmetics. And from Nomad Cosmetics, it was difficult. It was very, very difficult. The palette that I pulled, it's not my most used palette. And if you follow me for a little while, you probably know what my most used palette is from them. I picked this one because it just makes me happy. And in the rest of the collection, it makes sense. And the palette that I actually picked is the Paradise Island palette. I initially also pulled the Monteverde, the Cloud Forest palette. But this palette made the cut because, cat hair. Because also because of the top row. So I do have some pastel shades kind of strewn about in the collection that I'm kind of curating right now, but I love to use these as blushes and as shadowy toppers. This is such a stunning blush on me. I love the colors that are in here. I love the fact that I have some pops of green, that I also still do have these blues down here. It just gives me so much variety, this palette, and it makes me very, very happy. And I can use this kind of to liven up some of the other palettes that I pulled. This quality is so nice. So nice. So yeah, that one. Their formula is buildable, blendable. The shimmers are stunning. And yeah, what can I say? What can I say? Then I'm going to go to Rebel Rouge Labs. And from Rebel Rouge Labs, I did pull my favorite palette, the one that I use the most. It also made a lot of sense with the rest of the palettes that I pulled, and it is the As the World Falls Down, which is Labyrinth inspired. So here we have some kind of warmer neutrals. We also have some olivey neutrals. We have a black, we have a dark gray. This palette kind of complements the rest, and this palette was actually the reason that I did not pull the Natasha Denona Gold palette, because the shadows that I kind of want there, the warmer browns, I can kind of use with this as well. So that's why I pulled this, and the quality of this is so nice. So nice, honestly. Then we're going to go to Shroud Cosmetics, and from Shroud Cosmetics I have 3 palettes right now. This one I pulled because it made sense with the rest of the palettes that I pulled, and because one of the shades has the same name as my son. It is a collaboration with Betty Jean. It's actually her first collaboration, the It's Freaking Bats. First, I actually pulled her last collaboration because I love that palette. I love that palette so much. But with the rest of the palettes that I pulled, this made more sense. And yeah, the center shade has the same name as my son. So I kind of had to pull this palette. But it just makes sense with the rest of the color stories that I have. So that's why I pulled this one. I really enjoy this palette. I love Shroud's formula. It's pigmented but still easy to work with. The shimmers are so stunning. So stunning. So yeah, the Betty Jean palette. It's freaking bats. Yes, yeah, man. And then we're going to go to Sigil. And from Sigil, it was difficult, but at the same time, it also wasn't really. So Sigil is a Russian brand, and I have all the egg palettes up until, well, basically shit hit the fan. The palette that I pulled is, I don't think it will be a big surprise. It's the Chinchilla. This is such a, this is just such a pretty palette. It's cool toned purples with kind of a hint of a green in there as well. It's just such a unique color story. I think it's a favorite of a lot of people, at least who have these Sigil palettes. But yeah, this made sense with the rest of the collection. I don't want to lose any. I actually don't want to lose any eyeshadows. But yeah, if I can only keep one from Sigil, this is going to be the one that I keep from Sigil. Next, I'm going to go to Unearthly Cosmetics. The palette that I pulled from Unearthly Cosmetics is the All I Ever Wanted Volume 2. This gives me all the shimmer shadows that I want. You know, I was very close to picking the Snake palette from Sigil. However, this shade, even though it's not the same, it kind of gives me a similar feel. Oh, this is just... Oh, this is so pretty. This is such a stunning shade, honest to God. So yeah, it's not this gives me all the shimmers that I could possibly want. I can spruce up any look. They are stunning. What's not to love, right? What's not? And then especially that shade, I've swatched every time I open this palette up. I need to swatch this shade. I swatch it so often I cannot see the name anymore. I think it's Thorn. But the shimmers in here are just so stunning. So yeah, All I Ever Wanted. Next, I'm going to go to V Cosmetics. And from V Cosmetics, I pulled this palette very much because of the shades. It is the Lovers palette. Now, initially, I pulled the Smash the Patriarchy because it's the best purple palette that I've ever tried. However, I have purples in other palettes. What I don't really have are neon shades. And that's why I pulled this palette. And will keep this palette, because I love, especially in summertime, I love just a pop of neon in the inner corner. And then maybe a liner and falsies, or a very light definition of the eye, you know, a neutral, very light neutral palette. This would pair very, very well with the Glam palette, actually, from the Natasha Denona. A very light eye makeup, you know, and then make a pop of something, so the orange or the yellow in the inner corner as a focal point. I love that so much. So that is why I pulled this palette, because I very much want neon shades, especially in summer. I love that so much. Then the last brand that I'm going to mention is Viseart. And from Viseart, I also made the palette dirty. I pulled a palette that I got from my birthday. I have 4 palettes from Viseart right now, and this is the one I pulled because I felt that with the rest of the palettes that I pulled, this just really, again, made sense. And this is the Spritz. Spritz palette. She's pretty neutrally, but also a little bit orangey and a little bit peachy. And I don't know, I just felt with the palettes that I have from Viseart, and then in combination with the other palettes that I have, this palette just made sense. So yeah, this was sent to me by my friend Emmy. She's only on Instagram, and I will link her Instagram handle down below. You definitely, you need to check her out because she's crazy talented. But yeah, so that was the last palette of my, well, basically, I don't want to say worst nightmare, but a nightmare that I can only keep 1 palette from these amazing brands. There's a reason that I have more than 3 palettes from these brands. So yeah, I will link the palettes down below. I hope, well, not everything is in stock, but if I can find it, I will link it down below. So go check out the description box also for discount codes that I have that are there, because I do have discount codes with a bunch of these brands. And yeah, that was it for today. Let me know if this was entertaining. I could also do the opposite if I had to get rid of 1 palette per brand. Maybe that will be interesting as well. Let me know down below. You will see the same brands, but maybe that will be a fun video too. Let me know if that is of interest to you. And then that is it. Oh yes, and if you have any video ideas for me, let me know down below in the comment section. And then that is going to be it for today. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down in the comment section below. I'm going to wish you a fantastic day, a fabulous evening. May your foundation always match your neck, and I will see you soon in my next video. Bye.